Hi everyone, so I'm here today with this Moonlight Mystique card using Copic markers. It's based on an acrylic painting taught at Pinot Palette, and I thought it would be fun to recreate it with Copic markers. So the first thing that we're going to do is draw in that horizon line about one third of the way from the bottom of the page, and then we're going to draw in the outline of the moon using a circle punch of 1.5 inches, and then we just use the interior portion to do that. I also just drew in the outline of the rock formation on the left hand side because I need that as a guide when I put in the water. The next step is to work on the halo around the moon and then the night sky. And to do that, for the halo, I used a series of light blue and blue-green colors, and you can see them all. They're on the cap on the right-hand side of the page if you want to follow along with me at home. So I started with C0, and then I went to B10, and then to B000, and then to B00. And now we're going to move on to B21. And this is the point where we're going to start to get into the actual night sky. And I'm just going to keep going around in a circle with my B21. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to blend the B21 and the B00 together. Whenever you add another color into this pattern, you need to go back with the previous color to blend it in. It looks like I didn't do that right here, but I'm going to go back to it in a second, don't worry. So now we're going to follow the B21 with B24, and notice that the colors may not look very blended just yet, but we are going to go over these colors about 2 to 4 to 5 times. So I would say by the time we're about 3/4 of the way done with the sky, you're going to really get a sense of what the sky looks like and how the colors blend. So you just have to, as you're working through this process, just have a little bit of faith that the colors are going to, that you just have to let time blend the colors in, so that you don't end up overworking the page. And you can tell that you've overworked the page if you start getting like little white blotches. Like you can actually see on mine, it started at the very, very top of the moon. Do you see how some of the dark blue, there's some little white blotches in there? Well, that's what happens when you overwork the page. And if that does happen to you, just stay away from that section for a little bit, let it dry, and then you can go back and and try to fix it. And you'll be able to fix it. All right, we're going to lay down our last sky color here. It's B28. And just notice that as I get to the horizon line, I'm going to stop the circular shape, and I'm going to make sure that I stay flat with the horizon line. And now I also am making sure that I'm not bleeding the night sky into the rock formation on the left side. So I just kind of followed the outline of the rocks when putting the sky in there. And here, all I'm doing now, I'm just kind of blending the sky together, blending the different rings of color together. And hopefully by now you're starting to get a sense of how pretty this night sky is going to be. This is probably my all-time favorite color combination for drawing a night sky with a big moon in the center. Moons are one of my favorite things to draw, along with water. It's just, I find it really, really peaceful and relaxing, and so it's kind of like one of my favorites. So whenever I kind of don't know what to do, or I'm not sure what to do next, or I just want something comfortable, I kind of always go back to the moon. It always finds me, or I find it, whichever. Now to draw in the moon, we're going to use C0, C1, C00, and then the colorless blender at the end. So I started with C0, and I just kind of drew in some squiggles around the moon, and then I darkened a few patches with C1, blended it together with C00, and then blended it even further with the colorless blender. Now it's time to move on to the water. And for the water, when you put the water in, you want to make sure that when your marker hits the page, it's always hitting first on one of the edges that runs perpendicular to the page. Like, because let's say, do you see how I'm always working from the edges inward? If you were to start from the middle, right, you will end up getting blotchy color. So whenever you're laying color down, when you're doing water like this, you always want to start from one of the edges and work your way towards the middle. Now I'm putting in B37 and B34. These are my all-time favorite colors for nighttime water, and I actually don't know that I use these colors for anything else, but I absolutely love them for water. And depending on what kind of sea you want, you may want still waters. If you want still waters, then you would just draw straight lines across the page. If you want it to look like there's a little bit of a wave or a ripple, then you would kind of bend your lines and curve them a little bit. And that's what I was trying to do here, because I want there to be some waves in the water. So I was curving it a little bit. Now I'm just darkening up the left side of the page. This is the side where the moon's reflection is the strongest, so we want to make sure that those colors match the halo around the moon. Specifically, we want them to be really pretty blue-green colors. So I'm using the BG 53, 57, and then my favorite all-time glow colors are B10, B11, and then B00. So whenever I want to lighten something up and give it sort of a glow, especially for water, those are my go-to colors. And the only thing to be mindful is just to make sure that you're not overworking the page. And that's if you're starting to get those blotches. If you see them, just kind of move away for a little bit, go do something else, and come back to it later when it's dry. All right, now we're going to fill in the rock formation. To start, we're just going to use a C5 as the base. You don't have to worry about your strokes or anything. You just want to get the color down. Then we're going to take C7 and we're going to outline the rock formation. And you can do this however you like. You may want to have like very flat edges on your rock, so you might want them to be a little craggly. I kind of started out with them being craggly. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's like a lot of little, looks like zigzaggy marks. And then I just wanted some striations in the rock. So I just took my C7 and I just pulled it out in like really, really thin lines towards the left side of the page. And then I did the same with the C5 to fill it in. And then I took the C3 and I just ran that along the edge of the left side of the page just to make sure that there was a sufficient color gradation in the gray so that you could kind of see the formations that we just drew in. Now I'm just kind of going back and forth with my C7 and C5 until I get a pattern on the rock that I'm happy with and a shadow that I'm happy with. And looks like I found it. Now we're going to do the tree. To do the tree, you know, this is one of those times in life when you just need courage, and you just have to choose a spot on the left side of the page to the left of the moon, and then just draw a straight line right up the page. And then you want the first branch to kind of curve around the moon. And that's what I did here. And you don't have to worry about the size of the tree trunk just yet. You just want to get the shape in. We'll go and fix the size of the different branches in the trunk later on. It's always better to be more narrow because you can make it as thick as you like, but once it gets too thick, you can't go backwards. And here I'm just going to draw in a whole bunch of pretty little wispy branches, and you can put your branches wherever you like. You just want to make sure that you leave a lot of the face of the moon visible, and you want some branches to kind of curve over the water because we're going to add some pretty white wispy little flowers later that are going to really make the scene come alive and add some magic to our scene. So just add the branches wherever you like, just kind of framing the moon. And to do the branches, you're just going to do a series of Y shapes and wishbone shapes that are like pretty and curved, kind of following the curves that are already in the page with the pretty moon and the halo around the moon. I think those are good guides to use. And then we're just going to put a few branches going up the left side of the page. And again, just use the same wishbone or Y formations for those branches. And one thing that's interesting is that for me, at least, I can kind of judge what kind of mood I'm in based on how much I cover up the face of the moon. So if I'm in a really good mood, I've noticed that my moon will be really wide open, right? And there won't be anything covering it. If I'm in a bad mood, then that moon is going to be like completely covered. And so whenever I see myself drawing like that, I'm like, okay, I need to like put myself into like a self-imposed like adult timeout for a while, because if I try to talk to any of my loved ones, I'll probably get into a fight. Or, you know, I'll just, yeah, that's probably what would happen. So, you know, again, like drawing these trees, I think is a good way to kind of gauge your mood. So happy to hear from anybody else if you notice anything about your artwork, if it kind of helps to give you a gauge of where your mood is. So let me know in the comments. All right, so we've got our branches done, and now we're going to move on to all our little highlights with our white gel pen. Here I'm just drawing in some waves. I am still a student in terms of learning how to do waves. They're really, really hard to do. Water and waves are difficult. So I'm not quite there yet, but I think for purposes of this painting, what I was trying to accomplish, and I think that it looks good enough for now for purposes of this card, is that whenever I saw like a really dark line of color, I would try to then go above that with a white gel pen and make like the wave cap. Because if you look at a wave, the way a wave looks, the dark part is right underneath where the wave cap is, because it's the underside, it's where the shadow is. So I tried to take advantage of those striations of color and, you know, put my white cap above wherever I saw a dark part in the water. Here, this is an important step. This is, we're drawing the reflection on the tree that's coming from the moon. And to do that, we're just gonna, you know, add some details with the white gel pen going up the right side of the tree, because that's the side that's closest to the moon and where we would expect the shadow to be. Next, now this is the fun part. We're just gonna draw all the pretty wispy little flowers onto some of the tree branches, and we're going to want them to extend like in dangling little spiral shaped bunches from the branch and then down into the water. So the way to do it is like you start at the tip of a branch, and then you can build the tip of the branch out even further by adding some white dots, and then you just kind of drop them down, and you want it to, you know, be a pretty shape. So kind of like a triangular shape, like a long elongated triangle, or like a spiral shape works well. But or like, I don't know, like an elongated teardrop, maybe that's another way to, no, that's probably not a way to look at it. It's like it needs to be kind of fat on the top and then really skinny as it gets towards the bottom. That's the shape you're looking for. And now for the left side of the tree, we're just going to do the same. We're going to put some little dangly white flowers, and then like wherever there are two branches that meet, we're going to put like little clusters of flowers in there as well. And I'm just looking now for spots to add some more white wisps, trying to focus on the spots that are the darkest, because that's where the wisps are going to show up the best. Here is another card that I had done earlier. This is the first one that I did, and I'm just, you know, letting you see how even in the same day, like you can try to make the same thing and it's going to come out a little bit different, just depending on, you know, where your mood is at that time. So I took this sentiment from Honeybee Stamps that says, "Your spirit amazes me," to finish the card. And here it is. It's all done. I hope you enjoyed this and have a great night, everyone.